found murdered on campus. Francis Deegan's physical resemblance to Benjamin Coffey, the student kidnapped in Newport, led many of us to believe that he had been selected as a replacement for Coffey, who was feared dead. "I want to get approval for a reward, maybe $500,000, said Jack Arnold, who ran BAU East. No one commented on the proposal. Several agents went on making notes or using their laptops. Actually, it was dispiriting. "I think I have something," I finally said from the back of the room. Stacy Pollock looked my way. A few heads popped up, reacting to the break in the group's silence more than anything. I rose at my seat. The FNG had the floor. I introduced Monty, just to be cute. Then I told them about the Wolf's Den and our meeting with 14-year-old Lily Olson. I also mentioned the Wolf, who, according to Monty's findings, might have been a Russian gangster by the name of Pasha Sorokin. His pedigree was hard to trace, especially before he moved out of the USSR. If we can get inside the den somehow, I think we'll find out something about the missing women. In the meantime, I think we need to put more heat on some of the sites already identified by Innocent Images. It seems logical that the pervs using the Wolf's Den might visit porn sites too. We need help. If the Wolf turns out to be Pasha Sorokin, we'll need a lot of help. Stacy Pollock was interested. She led a discussion in which both Monty and I were given the third degree. It was clear that we threatened some of the other agents in the room. Then Pollock made a decision. "You can have resources," she said. "We'll watch the porn sites 24/7. Thing is, we have nothing better at this point. I want our Russian group out of New York on this, too. I can't quite believe Pasha Sorokin would be personally involved in this, but if he is, it's huge. We've been interested in Sorokin for 6 years. We're very interested in the Wolf." Chapter 68. During the next 24 hours, more than 30 agents were assigned to surveillance of 14 different porn sites and chat rooms. It had to be one of the most lurid stakeouts ever. We didn't know exactly who we were looking for, other than anyone who happened to mention a site called Wolf's Den, or possibly the Wolf. In the meantime, Monty and I were gathering all the information we could about the Red Mafia, and especially about Pasha Sorokin. Later that afternoon, I had to leave. The timing couldn't have been much worse, but there wouldn't have been any good time for this. I've been asked to attend a preliminary meeting with Christine Johnson's lawyers at the Blake Building in the DuPont Circle area. Christine was coming after little Alex. I arrived at a little before 5 and had to fight the tide of office workers streaming from the unusual 12-story structure, which actually rounded the corner where Connecticut Avenue met L. I checked the downstairs registry and saw that the tenants in the building included Mazda, Barron's, the National Safety Council, and several law offices, including Mark, Haranzo, and Daigneault, which represented Christine. I trudged to the elevator bank and pushed a button. Christine wanted custody of Alex Jr. Her attorney had arranged for this meeting in hopes of resolving things without going to court, or resorting to alternative dispute resolution. I had talked to my attorney in the morning and decided not to have him present, since this was an informal meeting. I tried to only have one thought as I rode the elevator to the 7th floor. Do what is best for little Alex, no matter what or how it might make me feel. I got off at 7 and was met by Gilda Haranzo, who was slim and attractive, dressed in a charcoal suit with a white silk blouse knotted at the throat. My lawyer had competed against Ms. Haranzo and told me she was good, and also on a mission. She was divorced from her physician husband and had custody of their 2 children. Her fees were high, but she and Christine had gone to Villanova together and were friends from back then. "Christine is already in the conference room, Alex," she said, after introducing herself. Then she added, "I'm sorry it's come to this. This case is difficult. There are no bad people involved. Will you please follow me?" "I'm sorry it's come to this, too," I said. I wasn't so sure that there weren't any bad guys, though. We'd see soon enough. Miss Aranzo led me to a mid-sized room with gray carpeting and light blue fabric walls. There was a glass table with 6 tony black leather chairs in the center of the room. The only things on the table were a pitcher of ice water, some glasses, and a laptop computer. A row of tall windows looked out on DuPont Circle. Christine was standing near the windows, and she didn't speak as I entered. Then she walked over to the table and sat in one of the leather chairs. "Hello, Alex," she finally said. Chapter 69. Gilda Aranzo slid into her seat behind her laptop, and I chose a spot across from Christine at the glass conference table. All of a sudden, the loss of little Alex seemed very real to me. The thought took my breath away. Whether it was a good decision or not, fair or unfair, Christine had walked away from us, moved thousands of miles away, and hadn't been to see him once. She'd knowingly relinquished her parental rights. Now she'd changed her mind. And what if she changed her mind again? Christine said, "Thank you for coming here, Alex. I'm sorry about the circumstances. You must believe that I'm sorry." I didn't know what to say. It wasn't that I was mad at her, but, well, maybe I was angry. I'd had little Alex almost all his life, and I couldn't stand the thought of losing him now. My stomach was dropping like an elevator in free fall. The experience was like seeing your child run into the street, about to have a serious accident, and not being able to stop it from happening, not being able to do a thing. I sat there very quietly, and I held in a primal scream that would have shattered all the glass in the office. Then the meeting began. The informal get-together. With no bad people in the room. "Dr. Cross, thank you for taking the time to come here," Gilda Aranzo said, and threw a cordial smile my way. "Why wouldn't I come?" I asked. She nodded and smiled again. "We all want this problem to be settled amicably. You've been an excellent caregiver, and no one disputes that." "I'm his father, Ms. Aranzo," I corrected. "Of course. But Christine is able to take care of the boy now, and she is the mother. She's also a primary school principal in Seattle." I could feel my face and neck flushing. "She left Alex a year ago." Christine spoke up. "That isn't fair, Alex. I told you that you could take him for now. Our arrangement was always meant to be temporary." Ms. Aranzo asked, "Dr. Cross, isn't it true that your 82-year-old grandmother takes care of the baby most of the time?" "We all do," I said. "And besides, Nana wasn't too old last year when Christine left to go to Seattle. She's extremely capable, and I don't think you'd ever want Nana on the witness stand." The lawyer continued. "Your work takes you away from home frequently, doesn't it?" I nodded. "Occasionally it does. But Alex is always well cared for. He's a happy, healthy, bright child, smiles all the time. And he's loved. He's the center of our household." Ms. Aranzo waited for me to finish. Then she started in again. I felt as if I were on trial here. "Your work, Dr. Cross. It's dangerous. Your family has been put in grave danger before. Also, you've had intimate relationships with women since Ms. Johnson left. Isn't that so?" I sighed. Then I slowly rose from the leather chair. "I'm sorry, but this meeting is over. Excuse me. I have to get out of here." At the door, I turned back to Christine. "This is wrong." Chapter 70. I had to get out of there and put my mind somewhere else for a while. I returned to the Hoover Building, and no one seemed to have missed me. I couldn't help thinking that some of these agents squirreled away in the Home Office had no idea how crimes were solved in the real world. They almost seemed to believe that you fed data into computers and eventually they spit out a criminal. "It happens on the street. Get out of this windowless crisis room with all the bad air. Work the sidewalks," I wanted to shout. But I didn't say a word. I sat at a computer and read the latest on the Russian mob. I didn't see any promising connections. Plus, I couldn't really concentrate after my meeting with Christine's lawyers. Just past 7, I packed up my things and left the Hoover building. Nobody seemed to notice me leave. And then I wondered, is that such a bad thing? When I got home, Nana was waiting at the front door. I was just walking up the steps when she opened the door and came outside. "You watch little Alex, Damon. We'll be back in a while," she called through the screen door. Nana limped down the front stairs and I followed her. "Where are we going?" I asked. "We're going for a drive," she said. "You and I have some things to talk about." Oh, shit, I thought. I got back in the old Porsche and started it up. Nana flopped down in the passenger seat. "Drive," she said. "Yes, Miss Daisy." "Don't give me any of your lip either, or your sorry attempts at wit." "Yes, ma'am." "That's a good example of your lip." "I know it is, ma'am." I decided to head out west, toward the Shenandoah Mountains, a pretty ride and one of Nana's favorites. For the first part of the drive, we were both fairly quiet, unusual for the two of us. "What happened at the lawyer's?" Nana finally asked as I turned onto Route 66. I gave her the long version, probably because I needed to vent. She listened very quietly. Then she did something unusual for her. Nana actually cursed. "The hell with Christine Johnson! She's wrong about this." "I can't completely blame Christine," I said. As much as I didn't want to, I could see her side of things. "Well, I do. She left that sweet little baby and went to Seattle. She didn't have to go that far away. Her decision. Now she has to live with it." I glanced over at Nana. Her face was screwed tight. I don't know if that would be considered an enlightened point of view these days. Nana waved away what I'd said. "I don't think these days are all that enlightened. You know I believe in women's rights, mothers' rights, all of that. But I also believe you have to be held responsible for your actions. Christine walked away from that little boy. She walked away from her responsibility." "You through?" I asked. Nana had her arms folded tightly across her chest. "I am. And it felt good, real good. You ought to try it sometime. Vent, Alex. Lose control. Let it out." I finally had to laugh. I had the radio blasting all the way home from work, and I was yelling half the time. "I'm more upset than you are, Nana." For once, and I don't ever remember this happening before, she actually let me have the last word. Chapter 71. Jamila called that night around 11 o'clock, 8 o'clock her time. I hadn't spoken to her for a few days, and to be truthful, now wasn't the best time. Christine's visit to D.C. and the meeting with her lawyer had me tense and messed up, shook. I tried not to show it, but that was wrong, too. "You never write, you never call," Jamila said, and laughed in her usual loose and engaging way. "Don't tell me you're already wrapped up in a case for the Bureau. You are, aren't you?" "A big nasty one, yeah." "I'm sort of in and out of it," I told Jam, then quickly explained what was happening and what wasn't at the Hoover building, including my mixed emotions about being with the Bureau. All the stuff in my life that didn't really matter right now. "You're the new guy on the block," she said. "Give it some time." "I'm trying to be patient. It's just that I'm not used to this wasted motion, the wasted resources." I heard her laugh. "That, and you're used to being the center of attention, don't you think? You've been a star, Alex." I smiled. You're right. That's part of it." "You saw the Bureau from the other side of the fence. You knew what you were getting yourself into. Didn't you know?" "I guess I should have, sure. But I listened to a lot of promises that were made when I signed up." Jamila sighed. "I know, I'm not being very sympathetic, empathetic, whatever. One of my faults." "No, it's me." "Yeah," she laughed again. It is. I never heard you so down and out. Let's see what we can